Today, I'm going to be talking about potentially the strongest man to never have won World's Strongest Man. This is a man who has many different talents and has become incredibly famous. He was known as Sexual Chocolate. He was known as the King of the Jungle. He was known as the World's Strongest Man, but he never won the title. And today, we're going to be talking about Mark Henry. Mark was born in 1971. And he's best known for his 25 years in the WWE, where during that time, apparently the WWE went totally rogue. And I was reading some information on this, and it says this is part of the WWE plot. The night after he tried to make it with Brown, he was feuding with, and later in the week claimed to be a sex addict, resulting in him attending sex therapy a week later, where he claimed he lost his virginity at 8 years old, and he's still sleeping with his sister. I don't know what on earth was going on in the WWE back in the day, but my God, you all have to chill out a bit. Now, back to Mark Henry. He knew that, or at least there was prospect that he was going to be extremely strong from a very young age. He was in fourth grade, 5'5", 225 pounds. For context, the average fourth grader might be somewhere around 120, 130. He was nearly double the average weight. As a freshman in high school, we're talking 13 or 14 years old, he squatted 600 pounds, and he had a total over 2,000 pounds as a high school senior. That would be an elite total for a full-grown, untested Federation man, and Mark was tested. We know that because he was also in the Olympics. But before he left high school, he had the national record in squat with an 832-pound squat, a bench press of 525, and a deadlift of 815. Now, that 2,000 plus total was a record at the time as well, with 2,033 pounds. Stick around. I am going to get to if Mark could have won World's Strongest Man. Now, in 1992 and 1996, he participated in the Olympics, and he competed in Olympic weightlifting. He came 10th in 1992, and he came 14th in 1996 in Olympic weightlifting. Now, he also had the gold, silver, and bronze medal, course, in different disciplines. They give out 3 medals, 1 for snatch, 1 for clean and jerk, 1 for total, in the Pan Am Games in 1995. And he was a 3-time gold medalist in weightlifting for the USA and the US Championships in 1993, 1994, and 1996. Now, to add to this, he went powerlifting to weightlifting to strongman. And in 2002, he competed in the inaugural Arnold Strongman Classic, and Mark won the first Arnold. Now, powerlifting to weightlifting to strongman is so much more difficult than people would think it is. It's not just all about being strong. Now, when Mark was growing up, he was closely tied to the Todd family, which Jane Todd still runs the Arnold for us. And back in the day, late Terry Todd is pivotal in us getting to the place where we are in strongman now. And this potentially could have inspired him to try all these different things. But if we think about powerlifting, it's heavy, slow movements. In weightlifting, it's heavy, but extremely explosive and fast. Those are not the same muscle fibers. It's not the same thing whatsoever. And in strongman, you're going to bring in some level of muscular endurance, some level of anaerobic capacity, definitely a higher work volume required. And Mark managed to thrive in all 3 of these things. Now, let's talk about this 2002 Arnold before we go and assess if he could have won World's Strongest Man. In this competition, they had the Apollon's wheels for the first time ever. Now, they were 366 pounds, which is a lighter version of what we see in competition today. Mark tripled this, and if you see the nature by which he tripled it, it's mind-blowing. He just grabs it double overhand, flips it to his shoulders, and straight presses it up overhead. There was no continental clean. There was no reverse grip. Just grab, rip, and go. Absolutely mind-boggling. Sometimes in strength sports, it's more about how you do something than what you actually do. And in this case, how he did it absolutely blew me away. His max deadlift was 882 by 2. The only person he lost to at the Arnold was Andy Bolton, one of the best powerlifters of all time. Otherwise, they were an absolute class of their own. And in that era, 882 for 2 is incredible. That would still hold up pretty well in our era now. But with inflation of lifting numbers over the past 20 to 30 years, that is really, really good. He then also did the timber carry in 10.19 seconds. It's slightly lighter than what we have now, but up a similar ramp. The world record is, I believe, 7 seconds, which is Mateusz Kielskowski, who's incredibly fast. So for him to be 3 seconds slower, he's not lightning speed. He's a huge man, but he's capable of moving reasonably well. In that Arnold, he came out victorious over Sven Carlson, who had won World's Strongest Man in 2001, and Phil Pfister, who had won World's Strongest Man a handful of years later in 2006. So his first and only strongman competition, he walks in and beats the reigning strongest man with no experience. Tells you something. But let's talk conceptually. Could Mark have won World's Strongest Man? We're going to take about all of the elements in World's Strongest Man and in strongman shows, and first assess that before we go to the 2002 World's Strongest Man and see if he could have made. Pressing, he easily beat Sven Carlson at the Arnold, who was the reigning World's Strongest Man, so that's obviously at a very good level, and he beat everyone else in the field as well. Deadlifting, he was well ahead of everyone but Andy Bolton, and this is right in his wheelhouse from his powerlifting background. With moving events, he had a reasonable frame carry time, but he wasn't overly fast. When it comes to atlas styles, his deadlift is really good, his squat is really good. He's a large man. I would assume he would be very strong, but not very fast at atlas styles. He would be capable of finishing any run, maybe not in the fastest time frame. When it comes to squatting, that's totally in his wheelhouse. And then for medleys and reps, we don't really know. Traditionally, guys built like Mark tend to fatigue on reps. He's also a freak of nature, and I wouldn't put it past him to be very, very good. Based on that information, we're actually going to go to the 2001 World's Strongest Man, the one that Sven Carlson won because he beat Sven Carlson at the Arnold. Would that shake out over the course of World's Strongest Man? The first event that they had in the finals was squatting 318 kilos for reps. I would feel pretty comfortable saying that Mark Henry would win this. Sven Carlson lifted 318 kilos 10 times, and if we look back to Mark Henry's high school numbers, as a high schooler, he squatted 832. 700 pounds as a percentage of 832, 84%. 84%, that would be good for probably about 3 to 4 reps. And that's as a high schooler. So thinking many years, much, much stronger. Would he go from 3 to 4 as a high schooler to more than 10? I would hazard the guess, yes. So I'm giving Mark maximum points on the squat lift for event in the 2001 World's Strongest Man. Next up was the farmer's walk, 125 kilos for 60 meters. I think he would have held on to these farmers all day if he had to, but it's just the speed by which the best right here finished in 32 seconds. He's probably at 2 meters per second. That was Phil Pfister, who would have been literally running down the course. I've got Mark finishing middle of the pack here with 6 points, thinking that he's not going to sprint through it, but he's going to finish it fairly comfortably. Next up, log lift, 120 kilos for reps. I'm giving him 8 points here. 120 kilos is not heavy. The winner got 11 reps, and that many reps for a guy that size, I haven't seen anything like that. If there were a man to prove me wrong, it probably would be Mark Henry, but based on the evidence, I'm going to give him 3rd place in the log lift event. Next up was the vertical lift, which is an arm-over-arm lift of sorts. There was a handful of guys who absolutely blitzed this, like literally would have just been doing this. And how quickly can Mark go in relation to them? He wasn't a very refined strongman because he didn't do it. So I'm going to give him 4th on this, just given that he is so strong. His grip would be incredible, but maybe the technique wouldn't be perfect. 7 points for Mark Henry there. Next up is Conan's wheel, and this would definitely be Mark's weakest result of all of these. Front-loaded carries for large men is always very, very challenging. That's why Pavlo Koryatka has the world record, and he is so, so good at it. Just by nature of being larger, you have to have that sitting further and further away from you if your chest and stomach are out away from you as well, naturally creating a larger moment arm and making the leverage very difficult. I'm still going to give him 5 points here because someone who is that strong and that much of a freak, I just don't see him finishing in the bottom half of any event. So 5 points on the Conan's wheel, and we wrap up with the Atlas Stones, where there was a small number of guys who got all 5. I would back Mark to get all 5 just with his brute strength. But I think he would finish a little bit slower than the other people. And I'm going to put him with 7 points here behind Magnus Samuelsson, Muir, German guy, I've never heard of, and Phil Pfister. For context, Phil Pfister finished in 41 seconds. That's 5 stones in 41 seconds. You have to be moving pretty quickly to get that done. I've got Mark Henry just behind him. Now in total, and this surprised, this gave Mark Henry 43 points, and that puts him in 5th place. This gets to a really important conversation. Does World's Strongest Man find the world's strongest man? And the answer is unequivocally no. World's Strongest Man finds the best strong. The world's strongest man, probably the world's best powerlifter. The most powerful man is the world's best Olympic weightlifter. And the world's best strongman is someone who can get every single element done. I think the only thing missing from Mark's straight experience to be an incredible strongman back in the day is that powerlifting is 1 rep, Olympic lifting is 1 rep, and strongman requires a level of muscular endurance, a level of anaerobic capacity, a level of mobility. Now, this was particularly, in terms of the mobility and the muscular endurance, particularly relevant in this era. Right now, if we had log for reps, it'd be somewhere between 160 and 180 kilos, depending on the competition, and they were at 120 kilos. We would be deadlifting for maximum, we'd be up 1,000 pounds plus, and they capped out at 890 pounds. I think Mark would have fared better in a future generation where it was much more about how much could you purely lift and much less how far and how fast could you take things. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Mark is an absolutely mythical figure and one of the smartest people. When you listen to him speak, you listen to him on podcasts, really, really intelligent guy and super nice dude. I've been privileged of meeting him a couple of times, and I would love to hear him contest my analysis here, because I'm sure if he backed himself, he could go win World's Strongest Man. And to be honest, I totally agree. If he trained for it, if he trained and took a good 12 to 24 months, he could, but I don't think he could win World's Strongest Man rocking up just like he rocked up to the Arnolds. Feel free to leave the comments. I would love to know who else you guys would love an analysis on, who maybe didn't win World's Strongest Man or could have, or someone in a slightly different sport. I think it is so cool to look at these people in history and go like, why are they such legends? And actually peel back the onion a little bit on what have they done to become this figure. And with Mark, it's like the CrossFitter of strength sports. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. He won national championships in weightlifting. He won national championships in powerlifting. He won an Arnold. I can't think of anyone else in history who's had that level of success in powerlifting, weightlifting, and strongman. And like I said at the outset, it's because these are not the same thing. Thank you very much for watching us. If you'd like to support the channel, go ahead, find the merch link in the description and in the YouTube shop. Don't Be a Cat is coming back very soon, but good news for those who have larger bodies. We have 4X and 5X in now. Our plus size shop is live, and you can finally have Lift Heavy Be Kind merch. And if you'd like to become the strongest version of yourself, I have programs down, linked in the description as well. These are written by me. I have my master's degree in clinical exercise physiology. And of course, I have won World's Strongest Man, the Arnold, the Rogue Invitational, strongest man on earth. Everything there is to win, I've won it. And I've learned everything in the classroom, and I've learned everything the hard way. You get those two together, and you should be making progress, learning through my mistakes and my learnings. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Until next time, lift heavy, be kind, and we'll see you tomorrow.